For more inspiring content, subscribe to JKYog and press the bell icon to never miss a latest video.
First verse. Arjuna vacha evam satata yuktaye bhaktas tvam paryupasate ye chapyaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittama. Now we all know the setting of the Bhagavad Gita. It was the few hours before the battle was to begin, and Arjun was overcome by confusion, doubt, uncertainty as to what his duty was in this situation. And in sheer desperation, he surrendered to the Lord. Shishyasteham shadivam tvam prapannam. O Shri Krishna, I am your surrendered disciple. Please enlighten me. So, the Bhagavad Gita is not merely dry philosophy. It is the application of philosophy to a particular problem. In other words, it is practical human ethics, what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. However, in replying to Arjun, Shri Krishna did not merely address his question, but went on to explain the whole philosophic truth. And that is why through the window of the Bhagavad Gita, we get an eye to the complete absolute truth. In the first 6 chapters, this is called the karma part of the Bhagavad Gita. Shri Krishna describes in detail karma yoga. In the next 6 chapters, 7 to 12, this is the bhakti section, where Shri Krishna describes the glories of bhakti, and to nurture bhakti, he describes how his opulences manifest in this world. And then finally in the 11th chapter, he reveals his universal form to Arjun. So that is the context of this question in the first verse that Arjun has presented to Shri Krishna. Just to complete, the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are called the Gyan section, where Shri Krishna is giving solid Tattva Gyan. So this is the last of the Bhakti chapters. Arjun has just seen the universal form of God. That was his desire. So he requested, Shri Krishna said, Arjun, are you sure you wish to see it? Yes, my Lord. So Shri Krishna granted him divine vision, and he saw the most amazing sight that has ever been seen. He saw the totality of creation in the locality of Shri Krishna. He saw his form extending in all directions, encompassing all things. He saw his hands, feet extending everywhere, innumerable in extent. He saw all that existed was contained in his form. Everywhere was that universal form. Although Arjun had received divine vision, he started trembling. Danshtra karala nichate mukhani drishtva kala nalasannibhani Disho na jane na labhe cha sharma prasida devesha jagannivas. He said, "Oh Shri Krishna, my mouth is drying up in fear and sweat is pouring out of the pores of my body and I'm trembling. Please hide this." So Shri Krishna hid the universal form and again revealed himself in his two-armed form. So Arjun has seen God in two ways. In his all-pervading cosmic form and in his localized avatar form. So Arjun is now asking, "Oh Shri Krishna, there are those who are drawn to worshipping you in your formless aspect. And there are those who are naturally enchanted by your personal two-arm form. Which of these is superior in yoga?" Shri Krishna is going to answer that, but because we have just 20 verses in this chapter, so we have the luxury of going into greater depth of the knowledge presented in these verses. So firstly, let's look at the various forms of God. A lot of people are unable to accept that God can have a personality and exist in a personal form. I mean, the whole of the Western world finds that difficult to conceive. It could be a cultural thing or whatever, but in India, they naturally identify the personal forms. They are worshipping the deities, and that concept is very rare in the West. And many from the Indian tradition also are very uncomfortable with the concept of God having a form. They say, "No, this is not digestible to me." So this needs to be clarified before we can proceed with the rest of the chapter. Those who say that God cannot have a form, you ask them why. They'll say God is everywhere. Very correct. So if he manifests in a personal form, he will not remain everywhere. Simple logic. Where is Govind? In the office. Alright, so he's not at home. Simple logic. No, he's at home and he's also in the office. Impossible. So God has to be either in his personal form or everywhere. People use this logic. However, they forget that God cannot be circumscribed within our mundane logic. He is totally and completely beyond that. He is kartum akartum anyatha kartum samartha. He can do what he likes, he can do the opposite, he can do contradictory things, all at the same time. That is why the Vedas say, "Anoraniyan mahato mahiyan natma guhayan nihitosya janto tamakratum pashyati bita shokah." God is smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest, nearer than the nearest, further than the furthest, harder than the hardest thunderbolt, and softer than the softest flower. Contradictory attributes reside in his personality at the same time. So for him, this logic does not apply that he has to be either A or B. He is innumerable things at the same time. In fact, he can simultaneously be everywhere and at the same time reside in his divine abode, and at the same time be locally present in our hearts as the Paramatma, and also manifest in his personal form. Let us now move a little away from God and come to the world. Regarding the world, there can be no doubt. Is the world formless or does it have forms? Of course, Swamiji, the world is full of forms and colors and shapes. So this world of myriad forms, how was it created? God created it. How did God create it? Where was the starting point? What were the building blocks? How did this manifestation take place? Now the Taittiriya Upanishad. Somebody was asking me, Swamiji, we believe that the world was created in 7 days. Is there any description of creation in the Vedas? So again, the Yajurved Taittiriya Upanishad, the second Valli, second Anuvak states, Tasmad vai tasmad atmana akasha sambhuta akashad vayur vayur agni agnerapah dabhya prithvi prithivyaushadah aushadhibhyonna mannat purusha savayesh purusho narasamaya. That first of all, God created space or akash. That was the first entity to come into existence. So space is formless. It has no attributes. You can neither touch it, nor taste it, nor smell it, nor see it, nor hear it. From space, the next entity to manifest was air. Air got the attribute of touch, which did not exist in space. You can touch the air, right? Swamiji, there's a cool breeze blowing, please put on a sweater. So you're touching the air. And from air, the next entity, the next form of energy that manifested. So we see all this as energies. Bhumi rapo nalo vayu khammano buddhirevacha. Shri Krishna says in the 7th chapter, Arjun, all my energies. So the next energy to manifest was fire. And fire developed the attribute of form which did not exist in air. See, it's becoming more and more gross and the attributes are increasing. And from air manifested water, and that developed the attribute of taste which did not exist in air. I was astonished to know that if your tongue is totally dry, you can't taste. If the food is totally dry, you do need a little bit of water for the taste. And from the water came the earth. And the earth developed the attribute of smell that did not exist in water. And from the earth, all these living entities were born, and the whole world full of forms, shapes, sizes manifested. So where was the starting of this world? Formless, attributeless space. Imagine the formless got converted into this world of forms. How did that happen? Power of God, Swamiji? Exactly, that is the answer. If God has the power to convert space into such an amazing world, does He not have the power to make a form for Himself? Or does He say, I don't have these abilities, I'm a little disabled, crippled, and hence I only remain without a form? If He is truly Sarva Shaktiman, Sarva Drishta, Sarva Antaryami, Sarva Lokameshwar, Sarva Surat, Yogamaya Adhyaksh, if He is truly God, as we all intuitively realize the definition of God to be, then we have to concede that He has the power to manifest a form. And the Vedas are talking about this. Tasminnaha tasthur bhuvanani vishva. This is the Rig Veda, That all-pervading God descended in this world in a form. Ajayamano bahudha vijayate tasya yonim paripashyanti dhiraha. Ajayamano, God never manifests in this world, has no births. Bahudha vijayate, He has many births in this world. How come this contradiction? The contradiction exists in us as well. Are we formless or do we have a form? Are we formless or do we have a form? Simple question. This has to be answered after deciding who am I. The person of wisdom will say I am the soul. Person with material knowledge will say I am the body. So the body has a form. What about the soul? It has no form. When the soul leaves the body, nobody can see it going. Many people have tried this. I have heard in Russia there was an experiment. A person was dying, terminally sick. So the scientists took the liberty of putting that body in a glass cage, thinking when the soul leaves, will the glass split? The person passed away, the soul left, the glass remained intact because the soul does not need space to travel. It is formless. So we all are formless. And yet we have taken on a form. A male form, female form, a child's form, and not once. In innumerable lifetimes, we have all taken on innumerable forms. So when we tiny, insignificant souls have this power to take on a form, cannot the all-powerful God take on a form? Or does He say, this is beyond my capacity, so I only remain formless? And how can He be God? So, He does have these both aspects to His personality that Arjun is talking about. His all-pervading aspect and His personal form. But this personal form, it's a little difficult to relate to as God. Why does He have to come in a form and complicate things? Do things like, stealing butter from the house of gopis and doing maharas and confusing all of us. Why doesn't He keep it plain and simple and just remain formless? So these questions must be understood in clarity. Then we will move on to Shri Krishna's answer that who is the superior yogi and why? The worshipper of the formless or the worshipper of the personal form?